Welcome to the Business Zone TV show, the show that brings you in-depth interviews with CEOs, entrepreneurs, and celebrities. I'm your host, John Mejia, and in today's show, we have the one and only Kevin Harrington. Let's talk about the entrepreneurial start, the young Kevin Harrington.
Yes.
From what I understand and doing my research and knowing you as I have over the years, at 15 years old, you had a driveway ceiling business that you started.
Correct.
And then you had then you progressed into an HVAC business that did over $1 million in sales. And then ultimately a deal with Entrepreneur Magazine. You had your own business center with 30 locations. Take me back in time, the driveway ceiling business at 15 years old.
All right, so I'll step back a couple years because I was fortunate. I grew up in a family, 6 kids. My father was a bartender, but he saved up money to become an entrepreneur. He opened Harrington's Irish Pub. So at 11 years old, I started working in my father's restaurants and bars. And so I wasn't just a bar back or a dishwasher, which I did all of that kind of stuff, but he was bringing me into learning the operations of the actual restaurant itself. I would help him close out the money at the end of the night, and I would count the products and the beer as it came in, and all the different suppliers bringing stuff in and out. So I really was learning the business side, and that's when he said, "You need to be an entrepreneur." So at 15 years old, I'm in high school. I started a driveway ceiling business, just knocking on doors. Now in Ohio, if you had a crack in your driveway and it got cold in the winter, that water would freeze and triple the size of the crack.
Right.
I knock on the door, let me put some filler in there, beautify your driveway. I'm doing 10 jobs a week. That was in high school. Now, when I got to college, my dad said, "Hey, you're the 4th of 6. The bad news, you've got to pay for your college," okay? So that's tuition, books, room and board, utilities, a car, etc. So,
and you were in Cincinnati,
I was
right?
in Cincinnati,
Ohio.
so
Gotcha.
I said, I can't be doing just a summertime driveway ceiling business. I got to start something year-round, heating and air conditioning. So I was actually buying leads from the courthouse in in Cincinnati, Ohio, where people that had just bought a new home, it was a public record. So I paid for these leads coming out of the courthouse, called them up, and offered them a free furnace cleaning and a safety check on their furnace. Of course, we were now getting 15 to 20 new clients a week.
Now, did your dad give you that idea, or you had been programmed?
This was
after
my
a few
own
years?
idea as I was out hustling and becoming an entrepreneur.
Jeez.
So we were picking up 15 to 20 new customers a week while I'm in college. And as this built, I had 25 employees. We're doing $1 million in business.
Back in the 70s,
Back in the
right?
70s, okay? It's the equivalent of about 5 million in sales today. So now, we weren't building the next Facebook, okay? But it was a fun business, and we were making money. So, what happened, that I decided, by the time I got to my 3rd year of college, University of Cincinnati, I couldn't run 25 employees, be in the office, and go to school. So I actually dropped out of college. So my mom wasn't happy, but after things progressed for me and I was successful, she had one daughter that married a doctor, daughter that married a lawyer. My brother was a corporate executive, and I was the entrepreneur. So, but I decided I had to sell my business because heating and air conditioning was very labor-oriented, very localized in Cincinnati. I went to sell it, talked to some business brokers, and I'm sitting there at a brokerage office. This guy had 200 businesses for sale. He had the books and records and the inner workings and leases of hundreds of businesses. And I'm like, well, I want to buy something. Well, what I really decided to do was to also get into that business of brokering businesses, because I said, if I become a business broker, I can learn the inside out of hundreds of businesses while I'm deciding what I actually want to do. Maybe I can partner with some of these folks. So I started partnering with some of the companies. I became a mini shark, okay? Because these were, we were selling delicatessens, flower shops, import, export companies, manufacturing companies, restaurants, bars, you name it. But this was
and you were selling business services, right?
Yes, and so I said, once you buy the business, maybe you need accounting, maybe you need advertising, maybe you need some jingles or new menus or insurance. So we created the Small Business Center. I rented a whole floor of an office building in downtown Cincinnati, and then I rented space kind of like today, you see WeWorks. They rent a floor,
Yeah.
they rent the space.
Yeah.
Well, I rented a floor,
You were
rented
doing that in the
space,
70s.
just the synergistic small business service companies.
Incredible.
We had insurance, we had accounting, we had advertising. We had a small advertising
One-stop
agency,
shop.
graphic.
Yeah.
It was called the Small Business Center.
Incredible.
We then went into Entrepreneur Magazine, did a big story on me, put me on the cover.
Yes.
In back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
And they said, look at this Small Business Center concept. I got 800 inquiries from all around the world. And entrepreneurs said, let's just license this around the country, and we opened up 30 of these small business centers in partnership with Entrepreneur Magazine. So this was back in the mid-'80s.
I mean, and if your life story, business story ended right there with that incredible story, I mean, you would have accomplished a lot. One thing that I do remember of the story that you shared back in the driveway, you talked about a transformation or pictures.
Right.
I mean, you were already leveraging, you were preparing yourself for the future. Talk a little bit about that, what you did with the driveways.
When I first started, I'm 15 years old, I'm on my bicycle.
15 years
I'm on my bicycle, didn't have a driver's license, right? So I bought a truck. Now I can own the truck, but I can't drive the truck, okay? So, but I'm riding on my bicycle up to people's houses, knocking on their door and saying, hey, let me seal your driveway. And they're like, well, hey, thanks, kid. You know, where's the owner of the company? They look back. I'm like, I'm the owner. They're like, well, come back when you get some experience, you know? So what I would do is I would go into the neighborhood, get one job done almost for free, just to cover the cost of my material. I'd take a picture before I did the job.
Oh,
I'd take a picture after, put a sign up across the driveway, and now I had the before and after magical transformation, right? And so little did I know, but this was setting me up for the wonderful world of infomercials later, which I think we're going to be talking about, where infomercials was all about before and after and magical transformation. So this was the beginning of the magical transformation.
I mean, the seeds were planted. Let me ask you this question, just from an entrepreneurial standpoint. And you had a mentor. You had your dad who kind of laid the foundation to you.
I was very
What's your opinion as an entrepreneur? Is an entrepreneur really an innate ability? Can a person learn to be an entrepreneur, or is it really you have to have that kind of risk-taking, mind-thinking kind of born?
So
what's your opinion?
I will tell you this. When I first started, I didn't really realize I was an entrepreneur until my father mentored me, gave me the confidence, and then it was finally when I had that heating and air business, when I did that magical transformation and then showed people the before and after, and they said yes, and now I was doing 10 driveways a week, I realized I could do it. Sometimes it's the confidence factor that's needed.
Critical, right?
And having a support network is important, but I believe absolutely, you can teach entrepreneurship. I don't believe everybody can be an entrepreneur, but I believe if you want to be one, we can teach you how to be one, and we can mentor you and get you there.
I remember part of your journey is talk about Think and Grow Rich. There's a book that you read.
Yes.
Talk about that, and how important was that in your young days, and even today in the marketplace, of reading quality content and getting your mindset. How important is the mindset? Because you said confidence. Confidence is so critical, right?
Absolutely, yes. So one of the things my father mentored me on, his restaurants opened for lunch and they closed at 2:30 in the morning. He would get in at 11 a.m. and leave at 3 a.m. Do the math, 6 days a week, that's a long week. Sunday was his one day off, restaurants closed. I'd sit there and watch him. He'd have a stack of journals and newspapers and trade journals next to him on his day off. And I'm like, hey, Dad, why are you busy reading all this stuff? And this is your day off. Why don't you take it easy? He's like, Kevin, he said, this is my time to plan for the future. These journals show me what's going on in the business. What are the new cooking methods? What are the new food sources and supply chain opportunities? So, and then we would go to trade shows together on weekends when he was off. And so he said, you've got to be reading. It's the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the this, the that. So I started as a young entrepreneur subscribing to newspapers, magazines, and then I started buying books. One of the very first books I bought was called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, an unbelievable game changer. Totally, the whole concept of that was if you believe it and if you conceive it and you believe it, you can achieve it.
Right.
And those were the steps that Napoleon Hill said,
Yep.
you can get what you want in life. So I have a saying now that
Yeah.
whatever you vividly imagine,
Yep.
ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass.
Yep.
And that is a quote by Paul J. Meyer from the SMI Institute. He's passed away now, but God bless him. I believe that the mind is so powerful
Yeah.
that you can get what you want if you just set your sights
a
on
big
it.
component of being a successful entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And you know what? I'm just going to dive into this question because I just can't. I can't hold back on this one. All right, the entrepreneurial world has got, with the exposure of entrepreneurs have been glorified, and you're seeing the magazines, the billionaire high-tech companies, the
Yes.
Lamborghinis, the race cars. What's your perception of how entrepreneurs are displayed, and is it really a reality? Because the reality of entrepreneurship, the game, the struggles, the money, the number of business failures. Talk a little bit about that and what we're seeing in the marketplace versus the reality of entrepreneurship. How do you distinguish the two? Do you think it's over glamorized?
I'll say this: there's a whole slew of entrepreneurs that are in the world of social media. They're becoming influencers, right?
Yes.
Or they are influencers.
Yes.
So what they want to do is show off their success, and I think some of these people take it a little too far sometimes. But at the end of the day, creating content is one of the ways that entrepreneurs today can gain audience, get following, and create a more powerful business.
Right.
Now, do you do it showing yourself driving a Ferrari or a Lamborghini? Well, if you've got the money and you've done that, and that's not just something you went out and rented,
Point noted.
So,
Point noted.
I mean, I know people that actually, they go rent an airplane for a day, they take a picture of themselves in front of it as if that's their plane, okay? Awesome. Now, I fly commercial, I fly private, I can do any of that stuff that I want, but that's not my approach.
Yeah.
I want to give good value, good content, good nuggets, good tips. My tip isn't go out and buy a Lamborghini and film yourself driving it because, look, you might have been successful. That's great. Be successful, but maybe put it back into tips and education for entrepreneurs, because that's ultimately what I'm now. There's been a little bit of a shift in the market.
I'll get to that.
We're going to be talking about that. But the bottom line is I don't like the images of all of this, kind of pretend stuff, if it is pretend. Now, I know people that do that, but they also earned it. Okay,
they're real.
That's okay.
The real deal.
But at the end of the day, I think people are more interested in your message than they are what you're driving.
Cool. Awesome.